first package had my name on it, but I never ordered it. The first package showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember the day clearly because I wasn't expecting anything, and I rarely order things online. The box was small, plain brown, with my full name and address printed neatly on the label. No return address, no company logo, just my name. I assumed it was a mistake. Maybe someone with a similar address entered it wrong. Maybe it was a delayed order I had forgotten about. I brought it inside and set it on the kitchen counter. Staring at it longer than I needed to. It was already paid for. No shipping fee due. No customs form. Nothing. I opened it carefully with a kitchen knife. Inside was a cheap digital wristwatch, black plastic, generic brand. The kind you'd find in a bargain bin at a gas station. There was no receipt, no note, no explanation. I don't wear watches. I checked my email for order confirmations. Nothing. I checked my bank account. No charge. The tracking number on the label didn't exist in any carrier system I could find. It was as if the package had materialized only long enough to reach my doorstep. I told myself it was a mix-up. I left the watch on the counter and forgot about it, until the next package arrived 3 days later. This one was slightly larger. Same plain brown box, same printed label with my name. Again, no return address. Again, no shipping information I could trace. This time I felt uneasy before even opening it. I don't know why. The box wasn't threatening. It didn't look damaged. But something about seeing my name typed so cleanly, so deliberately, made my chest tighten. I opened it slowly. Inside was a USB flash drive. No branding, no markings, just matte black plastic. I stared at it for a long time before touching it. There was no note. No explanation. I don't plug unknown USB drives into my computer. Everyone knows better than that. But curiosity eventually won. I used an old laptop I barely cared about and inserted the drive. One file appeared, a single video file. No title, no thumbnail. Just a timestamp. I hesitated. Then I clicked it. The video opened in silence. It showed the outside of my house. The camera angle was from across the street. The quality wasn't amazing, but it was clear enough. It was my driveway, my porch, my front door. The timestamp was from 2 nights earlier. I watched myself come home from work. Unlocked the door. Step inside. The camera kept recording. For hours. The footage didn't move. Just my dark house sitting there quietly. I fast dash forwarded. At around 2:18 a.m., the front door opened. I leaned closer to the screen. I hadn't left the house that night. But in the video, I stepped outside, barefoot, walked to the edge of the driveway, and just stood there for nearly a minute. Then I walked back inside. The video ended. I sat back slowly, my pulse rising. I don't sleepwalk. At least I never have. I checked my phone's health app. No recorded movement at that time. No step count. No activity. I checked the front door lock physically. It was still secure. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the footage was real, that I had been out there and I didn't remember it. The third package arrived the following week. By then I wasn't dismissing it as a mistake anymore. I didn't even pretend. I saw the delivery truck pull up this time, but something about it felt off. It wasn't a major carrier. The van was plain white. No logo, no uniform on the driver. He left the box on my porch and drove away without scanning anything. I opened the door immediately and grabbed it. This one was heavier. When I carried it inside, I noticed something else. The label looked slightly different. The font was the same, but the paper felt thicker, almost like photo paper. I opened the box in my living room. Inside was a stack of printed photographs. My hands felt cold as I picked them up. Each photo showed the inside of my house. Different angles. Kitchen. Living room. Hallway. Bedroom. All taken from corners I didn't recognize. High up. Like from a shelf or a smoke detector. The timestamps ranged over the past month. I flipped through them quickly, my breathing becoming uneven. Then I saw one that made my stomach drop. It was me. Sleeping. The angle was from above dot looking down at my bed. I felt physically sick. I looked up at the ceiling instinctively. Nothing dot, no visible camera dot, no wires, no blinking lights. I ran through the house checking every room. No obvious devices dot, no drilled holes dot, no tampered vents. The house looked normal dot, but the photos weren't fake. I could see small details in them. The crack in the hallway paint. The exact placement of books on my shelf. Things no outsider could guess. The final photo in the stack had something written on the back. 3 words. Check the watch. My pulse spiked. I rushed to the kitchen and grabbed the cheap digital watch from the counter. It was still there. Still unused. Still set to 12 o'clock. I pressed the side button. The display flickered. Instead of showing time, it displayed coordinates. Numbers. Latitude and longitude. My hands began to shake. I typed the coordinates into my phone. It led to a location 5 blocks from my house. An empty parking lot behind a closed grocery store. Under the coordinates was a second line of text. A date. Tomorrow. 2:18 a.m. the same time from the video. My chest tightened. I stared at the watch. Then back at the photos. Then at my front door. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I whispered something without thinking. I didn't order this. And from somewhere deep inside the house I heard a soft knock. 3 times. From the inside of my front door. The knocking didn't sound loud. It wasn't someone pounding on the door from outside. It was softer than that. Hollow. Like something tapping from the other side of the wood. From inside the door. I stared at it for several seconds, unable to move. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was echoing in my ears. The room was completely silent except for my breathing. Then it happened again, 3 slow taps. I stepped toward the door cautiously and placed my hand against it. The surface was cold, solid. There was no vibration. Nothing should have been able to knock from inside the door. I pulled it open quickly. The porch was empty. The street was quiet. No van. No person. No box. I stepped outside and scanned the driveway and sidewalk. The air felt still, heavier than usual. My neighbor's house lights were off. Everything looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. When I stepped back inside, the front door closed behind me with a slightly louder click than usual. I locked it immediately and stood there, staring at it. My pulse refused to slow down. The knocking didn't happen again that night, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I told myself I wouldn't go to the coordinates. I repeated it like a rule in my head. I wasn't going to some empty parking lot at 2:18 a.m. because a plastic watch told me to. That was insane. But the thought wouldn't leave. All day at work, I kept checking the time. I kept replaying the video in my head. The way I stepped outside barefoot and just stood there. At 6:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. Delivery notification. My stomach dropped instantly. I hadn't ordered anything. I rushed home without even finishing my shift. The box was waiting on the porch. This one was larger. Heavier. The label had my name again, printed perfectly. The font was identical to the previous ones, but this time, beneath my name, there was a second line. Return address, you. My hands went cold. I carried the box inside slowly. The tape was sealed tightly across the top. I hesitated longer this time before cutting it open. Something about the weight of it made my chest tighten. Inside was a folded hoodie. Dark gray. My hoodie. I recognized the small tear near the left sleeve immediately. I had ripped it months ago on a fence. I lifted it slowly. There was dried dirt on the hem, and something darker. A stain, not large, but unmistakable. I dropped it onto the floor instantly. My breathing became shallow. The smell hit next. Metallic. Faint. But there. Blood. My pulse began racing uncontrollably. I stared at the hoodie, trying to convince myself it wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe it was paint. Maybe it was rust. But I knew. I hadn't worn that hoodie in weeks, and I certainly hadn't bled in it. There was something else in the box. A folded piece of paper. My hands were shaking when I opened it. 4 words were written in neat black ink. You'll need this soon. The room felt smaller. I looked back at the hoodie on the floor, then at the coordinates on the watch. 2:18 a.m. I checked the date again. Tonight, my stomach twisted. I grabbed my phone and opened the video from the USB drive again. I fast-forwarded to 2:18 a.m. on the timestamp, the moment where I stepped outside and stood at the edge of the driveway. I paused the video, zoomed in on my hands. In the footage, I was wearing the hoodie, the same one now stained and sitting on my living room floor. I leaned back slowly. The video hadn't been surveillance. It had been documentation. The hoodie in the box wasn't from the past. It was from that moment, from tonight. My phone buzzed again. Another delivery notification. My heart jumped into my throat. I rushed to the door and opened it immediately. Another box sat on the porch. Smaller, lighter. The label read. Final reminder. I brought it inside without thinking. I didn't hesitate this time. I tore it open. Inside was a cheap disposable phone, already powered on. The screen displayed a live video feed. It showed the empty parking lot behind the closed grocery store, the exact location from the coordinates. The timestamp read 2:11 a.m., 7 minutes away. My breathing grew uneven. The camera feed shifted slightly, as if someone was holding it. Then the angle turned, and I saw him, standing in the middle of the parking lot, wearing the dark gray hoodie, the same one lying on my floor. He was looking directly at the camera, then at the disposable phone screen, which meant he could see me. He lifted his hand slowly and waved. The live feed glitched for a second. Then I heard something from behind me. The front door unlocking. The deadbolt clicked loudly behind me. I didn't touch it. The disposable phone slipped slightly in my hand as I slowly turned around. The front door was still closed, but the chain hung loose now. I was certain I had locked it. Then the handle began to turn, not violently, not rushed. Slowly, like someone unlocking their own home. I stumbled backward as the door opened inward. Cold night air spilled into the hallway. The porch outside was empty for a split second. Then he stepped inside. He wasn't blurry. He wasn't distorted. He wasn't some shadow. He was me, wearing the stained hoodie, barefoot, calm. He closed the door behind him gently and locked it again. The click of the deadbolt echoed in the silent house. I couldn't move. "You got the packages," he said. The voice was mine, but steadier. Controlled. I swallowed hard. "What is this?" I managed to ask. He looked around the house slowly, almost thoughtfully. "Preparation," he replied. My chest tightened painfully. "For what?" He stepped closer, and I noticed something unsettling. There was a small cut above his eyebrow. Fresh, slightly bleeding. I didn't have that cut. "Tonight," he said quietly, "you go to the parking lot." My stomach dropped. "That's not happening," I said immediately. He tilted his head slightly. "You already did." The disposable phone in my hand buzzed. The live feed still showed the parking lot, but now was empty. The timestamp read 2:21 a.m. I looked at the clock on my wall. 2:14 a.m. 7 minutes behind. My heart began racing. "No," I whispered. He stepped closer. "The footage you watched earlier," he continued, "that wasn't from the past." My breathing became uneven. It was from the last loop. The word hit me hard. Loop. He gestured toward the hoodie on the floor. "You didn't survive the first time," he said calmly. My vision blurred slightly. "What do you mean?" I asked. He took a breath. "You went to the parking lot because you were curious," he explained. "You thought you could confront whoever was sending the packages." The disposable phone vibrated again. The live feed switched automatically. It now showed security footage from the grocery store. The timestamp read 2:18 a.m. In the footage, I walked into the empty parking lot, alone. I looked around nervously. And then, Headlights flashed on suddenly from a parked car. The footage cut to static. My pulse hammered in my ears. "You didn't come back," he said quietly. The words felt heavy. Final. Double quotes. "Then how are you here?" I whispered. He looked at me directly. "Because I learned." The room felt colder. "Learned what?" "That the packages aren't warnings," he said. "They're corrections." I felt dizzy. Corrections for what? For mistakes. He stepped closer again until we were only a few feet apart. "The first version of you went unprepared," he said. He had no proof, no plan, no idea what was waiting. He glanced at the disposable phone. "This time, you have everything. The watch, the hoodie, the footage. It's the reminder. They're tools," he said. I shook my head slowly. "This doesn't make sense." "It will," he replied, "when you see it." The clock on the wall ticked loudly. 2:16 a.m. "You have 2 minutes," he said. "For what?" "To decide." My chest tightened. "Decide what?" "If you go," he said, "you might survive this loop." "And if I don't?" He didn't hesitate. "Then we reset." The words hung heavily in the air. "Reset how?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "You wake up on a Tuesday afternoon." My mind flashed back. The first package. The cheap watch. The ordinary day. My stomach twisted. "You're saying this has happened before?" "Yes." "How many times?" He paused. "Enough." The disposable phone buzzed again. The live feed returned to the parking lot. This time, I saw something new. A car parked near the edge of the lot. Engine off. Lights dark. Waiting. My pulse raced. "That car," I whispered. He nodded. "That's where it ends." I stared at him. "Why send me there at all?" I demanded. He looked almost frustrated. "Because something has to change." The clock hit 2:18 a.m. The live feed on the disposable phone showed the parking lot in real time. Empty. Waiting. He stepped backward toward the door. "You can stay," he said calmly. "Pretend this is stress. Burn the packages. Throw away the phone." The air felt heavy. "But if you stay," he added, "the knock will come again." 3 soft taps echoed from the front door. From inside. My chest tightened. "You know how it ends," he said. I looked at the hoodie on the floor. At the watch. At the disposable phone. At him. "You survived?" I asked quietly. He nodded once, but only because I remembered. The knocking came again. 3 taps. Louder. From inside the door. I felt something shift inside me. Fear. Curiosity. Anger. "If I go," I said slowly, "what's different?" He looked at me steadily. "You don't walk in blind." The disposable phone screen flickered. A new image appeared. The inside of the parked car. A silhouette in the driver's seat. Watching. Waiting. My heart pounded violently. I picked up the hoodie from the floor. The dried stain felt stiff beneath my fingers. I looked at him one last time. "And if I don't come back?" I asked. He didn't smile this time. "Then I'll send the first package again." The room felt completely still. The knocking stopped. I walked toward the door, unlocked it. Cold air hit my face. I stepped onto the porch. The disposable phone in my hand still showed the live feed. The car was there. The parking lot empty except for it. I looked back over my shoulder. He was standing in the doorway, watching me. "Remember," he said quietly. I started walking. 5 blocks. Barefoot. The night felt unnaturally quiet. When I reached the parking lot, the car's headlights flicked on. Blinding! I froze. The driver's side door opened slowly. A man stepped out. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he was holding something. A small brown box with my name on it. My pulse thundered. He placed the box on the hood of the car, then got back inside. The car drove away, leaving me alone in the empty lot. The disposable phone buzzed one last time. The screen displayed a message. Delivered. I stared at the box for several seconds before walking toward it. My hands shook as I picked it up. The label read, "Return address, you." I opened it slowly. Inside was a cheap digital wristwatch. Black plastic dot set to 12:00. My stomach dropped. The time stamp on the disposable phone read 2:23 a.m. The screen went black. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in my kitchen. It was Tuesday afternoon. A small brown box sat on the counter, with my name printed neatly on the label.